It's hard to be a kid right now. And whether you're in Montreal or whether you're in South Florida, it's not an easy world to grow up in.
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of 5, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. of Dad Central and the man with, it looks like growth happening again.
Drew Solon of Dad Central. Yeah,
Yes,
you know,
and
it's actually getting warmer out, so normally I would probably have shorter hair and no facial hair.
yeah,
But, just a little lazy these days, that's all. You know how it goes.
and you're watching or listening to Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. And also our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. What else is going on in your world? Quick.
You know, we got a big trip coming up for the family, so I'm excited, but a little bit nervous. You know, traveling with 5 kids and a 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old, could create some challenges. So we're excited but nervous.
It's going to be okay. It's going
It's
to
gonna
be
be great.
okay. Absolutely. Go in with positive expectation.
Yeah.
Right?
Excited about it.
Who are we sharing with today?
You know, today I'm really excited because we've got Mike Matheny, former Major League Baseball catcher and renowned coach. So, you know, Mike, he's made a significant impact on and off the field, not just as a player, but also a mentor to young athletes and as a father of 5. So in this episode, what you're going to get is you're going to discover actionable coaching tips that elevate not only your child's game, but their character building journey, which I think is so valuable. You're also going to learn how fatherhood parallels leadership and be able to foster both resilience and consistency in your family life. And finally, you're going to understand the profound influence that you have as a parent and how to form valuable connections to support you in your role. So from my perspective, I know it's going to be a great conversation. And I know as you listen, you're going to have a ton of valuable takeaways. So get ready, take some notes. It's going to be an awesome conversation.
We are excited to have Mike Matheny, who was an MLB catcher. For those who don't know MLB, we're all in acronyms these days, Major League Baseball catcher, who won 4 Golden Gloves. Then he retired and he coached youth sports and he got called up to manage the St. Louis Cardinals. Fun fact, he's the only baseball manager to be called up from coaching a youth sports team to managing a Major League Baseball team. After leading the Cardinals to a postseason in each one of his first 4 campaigns and winning the National League pennant in 2013, he was let go and went to Kansas City and did a stint there for 3 years. His first book, the best-selling The Matheny Manifesto, was about Mike's philosophy of coaching. You may have heard about it since it went viral. Now his new book, The Dad Coach, How to Lead Kids to Succeed on and off the baseball field, Mike shares how coaching youth baseball or softball so parents can be the best coaches they can be. The book is filled with tips, drills, and examples and words of wisdom on how to motivate the kids on your team. Mike's philosophy is what we use in youth sports to teach young people not only the skills they need to make the best players they can be, but also the character qualities that can make them the best adults they can be. And he believes that coaching done right can help raise great leaders, men and women, capable of influencing every facet of our future world. His way of coaching may harken back to a different era. Some may say it's even old-fashioned, and there's nothing wrong with some old-fashioned stuff, but he's committed to seeing his kind of coaching become the norm again, rather than some treasured relic of the past. Welcome to the Dad Central Show, Mike Matheny. Good day, sir. How you doing?
Doing great, Ed. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. We are excited to have you and looking forward to another epic conversation. And Drew, let's kick it off.
Yeah. Well, Mike, so very much glad to have you. Really excited for the conversation, as I said before we came on to record. I didn't share this with you, but I actually grew up in St. Louis, so I was initially a Cards fan. I remember watching, I was a baseball player as well, and I remember watching you. So I'm trying not to be too starstruck, but I'm really excited just for that aspect to be able to see people that I've watched and analyzed. But I think the excitement really comes from the messages that I took from your book, and we'll get to that later on. But you know, the we love to start the show engaging with fathers and getting a little bit of their backstory. You know, how did they get to where they got to? And so I think maybe we'll start, if you're open to it, talking about your fatherhood journey, because it's unique. You know, you've got 5 kids, and you were doing that all while playing Major League Baseball or pursuing a career in Major League Baseball. So, can you talk to us a little bit, like, what was that journey of becoming a father like for you?
Yeah, thank you, Drew. That's a topic I love. I love to talk about. So proud of my kids. So proud of my wife being able to be the one that wore kind of both hats when we're in the middle of a 9 month season. We'll leave mid-January a lot of times, and hopefully we're playing still in October with just a couple days off, really in between, to where we're actually at home and not traveling. So, listen, we're not trying to get sympathy from anybody, but when it comes to the fatherhood aspect, there's a lot of times that we're just not there, and those are some of the sacrifices that we make. Plenty of perks and advantages, and I get that, but um, with the knowledge of knowing, though, too, that I believe my 4 boys and 1 daughter needed a dad to be present even during the season. So I was very, very fortunate, one, to have a great example of a father of my own. My dad is still a great example to me today. But just watching him on a daily basis, and how he had to work to provide for us, and hard work as a heavy equipment operator, but never turned down an opportunity to play catch. Got to every game that he could when he wasn't working, and my mom the same way. Just great examples, and that stuck with me. And then also having some incredible mentors that were just a phase ahead of me, guys that were in the game of baseball, men like Todd Worrell, Andy Van Slyke, Rick Horton. We had a group that got together in St. Louis, and I was behind them. Their kids were a little older, and they were going through things that I was yet to go through, and just listening to them, and the challenges, and then the accountability of these guys holding each other to those high standards. Like, hey, man, when we get home from this road trip, I know we could go play some golf, but your kids need you. And just kind of having that kind of investment is really rare, but absolutely shaped and formed the way I thought about my privilege and responsibility of being a dad.
Yeah, so many good messages in what you shared, both in the early influences you had growing up, watching your father and having him involved in your life, but then also having, you said, other influential men around you, even in the same pursuit. And that, I love that last piece about accountability. Hey, we could go do this, but your kids need you. What a powerful message, I would imagine, coming from somebody who's maybe even a role model for you, or someone could be a mentor. That's really valuable. Could you maybe talk about one of the things that we hear from dads is, sometimes it's pretty scary when they're about to become a first time dad. Now, obviously, you had a good influence, but what fears or maybe challenges did you experience as you were becoming a dad, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, I think the same as everybody else. I'll never forget the first time they allowed us to take our oldest home. It was our boy Tate, and it's just after so much activity and professionalism around the hospital, and then sending us home to just go fly and do it on our own. I think that's pretty daunting to every parent, fathers and mothers. But watching our kids go through that now, but I also know that we had some great resources for support. My wife's family was in St. Louis where we raised our kids, and my family was always on call. And so we didn't necessarily feel like we were doing it on our own. But once the season started, and I was kind of still making my way through the minor leagues, making next to nothing, and trying to figure out how to provide for this family, that's spooky. And trying to figure out, am I going to be able to make a livelihood out of this, or is this just going to be something that is going to be over before it even hardly began? And there were a number of times that get sent down from the major leagues back to AAA. I got released twice, where I thought the game was over. But we always had a couple things. One, a very intentional group of friends that were locked arms with us, and they were in. And then the other side of that was family that we knew we could rely on, depend on, be real with, and talk about these things that are scaring us to death as new parents. And hey, can we have some advice? And I think, fortunately, my wife Kristen and I both had enough humility to know we didn't have it figured out, and we had some great people around us that were willing to teach us, and that's pretty priceless resources to have as a new parent.
Yeah. The sense I'm getting as you shared both your previous response and that is, it really does take a village, especially if you're working through some of the challenges and adversity that you faced, as you're developing as a young family. And so having those influences. Ed, I'm going to ask one more, and you can hop in. I know I'm monopolizing it a little bit, but Mike, you talked about being intentional in building that friend group. Family is great, but there sometimes family isn't available for parents, and there's they might feel like, how do I do that? Can you talk about maybe the process or what you observed, whether yourself or Kristen doing, that helped you build that community around that you could lock arms with?
Yeah, Drew, you're jumping into some good stuff right off the bat here, man, because it's one of the things that I love talking to young coaches about,
Mhm.
and making sure that they believe that they should take advantage of some of those resources around them. I was encouraged early on in my walk as a dad that I had some impressive people that were surrounding me, and to go ahead and formalize a board of advisors. So I
Mhm.
have my own personal board of advisors. I wrote up a document that was very unofficial and very non-binding, but just to let them know that I was serious. Like, hey man, I need some help with this. And I grew that board into 9 guys that I still stay in contact. Like, we've had some changes over time with just a couple, but the majority of them are there from the beginning. And people that we used that word accountability earlier. I know just enough to know that there's a whole lot of people that know more than I. And so, how can I bring in some people? One is really his gift is on the financial side, and I use him, and I ask him to get involved when I'm about to make a big decision, and rely on him. And I have the whole group. Their marriages are ones that I admire, and so being able to just stay in contact at least once a quarter to, hey, how's your marriage going, and then to be real about it, and
Mhm.
and also give them access. I have my, what I call my big three in that group. They have total access if they want to get into my schedule, because I can say what I'm doing, but my calendar normally tells the truth about, one, how I'm spending time with my bride, two, how I'm investing into kids, and what I'm doing to give back to community. And I love the fact that these guys aren't afraid to call me out. And it's not for everybody, but I think it's for most. And I've yet to have somebody come back and say, that didn't really help me at all, because anybody in that advanced stage, I would say almost anybody would be honored if someone that they knew and had a relationship with came to them in humility and said, I could really use a little bit more, if we can figure out a time where this isn't too much of your time, to where you can invest into me and I can ask you some questions. It's a great honor, and for me now to watch that happening on the other side of people asking me to jump in life, I mean, that's one of life's greatest rewards. So I would say, without question, maximizing those people around you, just figuring out who is it that I have great respect for, whether it is a relationship, whether it is a work ethic, whether it is something that they've been able to achieve or acquire, and it's something that's part of what you aim to look like. Why not? Just, what do you have to lose? The biggest thing that could happen is they tell you no, and then you just go to the next door.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. I love it. Could easily ask a follow up, but I got to give Ed some opportunity here.
Well, I'll just slide in gingerly, Mike, just to say my dad's a lifelong Expos fan, so I won't tell him I spoke with you. All right. So, but I was going to ask a question, and you've answered part of it, and it had to do with two R's when it comes to fatherhood. As a baseball man, you know the importance of resiliency and relationship. And you've talked
Mm.
about the relationship part. Could you give some insight to our fathers, dads, meal co-givers out there about the importance of resiliency when it comes to fathering?
Yeah, I just think resiliency goes along with consistency, and I see fatherhood as maybe the ultimate leadership position when it gets down to it, and might not be as I don't know, attractive as some of the other titles with in the C-suite. But being a father is, to me, the ultimate responsibility to lead the people that you've decided to bring into this world. And I would say resiliency and consistency are hand in hand. I believe leadership is caught more than it's taught. What they are going to see on a daily basis so outweighs whatever it is that we're doing when we're just flapping our gums like I'm doing right now. So it's an honor to be able to have people like my kids as grown adults now, and making sure that they caught some of the things that needed to be caught. Now watching them parent and doing it really, really well, and making up for some of the mistakes that I made along the trail. Being a parent and resiliency, it's not an option. I mean, it's just like being a kid. It's hard to be a kid right now. You have to have an incredible amount of resiliency to grow up. And whether you're in Montreal or whether you're in South Florida, it's not an easy world to grow up in, and it's not
More
an
so
easy
in the
world.
cold in Montreal, but I hear what you're
Well, you know, it is something that it takes grit, and that's one of the main pieces. Whenever I have the privilege of talking about my trail and baseball, what are the things that you were able to take away, the controllables of life? And I go through, I've narrowed it down to five, and one of those is just grit. The guys who I believe make the most of what they have on the field, and I think this translates and it crosses all kinds of borders, and certainly into fatherhood. Um, they stick it in there. They keep their nose in there and they keep on fighting. And then there's something really, really special when you see the special ones that when things get their hardest, they throw their shoulders back, they dig in a little bit deeper, and that's when they rise to a completely different level. Whether it's a dad, whether it's an athlete, any member of our society, life is hard. Life is hard, and how can you put your foot down and stand for something, and then not be afraid to continue to stand when it continues to kick you? And it isn't, heard this said so many times about parenthood. There's no exact manual to get you through it, which means you better be ready to just grind through it. And in the end, there's going to be some beautiful moments along the way.
saying.
Drew, I know you want to move on to another section. You want me to ask another one, or we can move on to the next part of our conversation?
You know, for me, so great question, Ed. I'm happy to, if you want to have a follow up, if
Yeah,
it's okay,
yeah,
can I just respond quickly to Mike? More
sure.
just because I think I want to more share from a sense of, what you just shared there really moved me. And I think because, I mean, I've been through some adversity in my fatherhood journey. But it moved me because I think I was just so inspired about the power of the truth that you just shared. And I know that there are a lot of fathers out there who are facing some significant adversity, and sometimes it's really challenging for them to be able to demonstrate that grit for whatever reason or another. And so I hope that if you're a father who's out there and you've heard what Mike just shared, that you can find that inside to keep persevering and moving forward despite some of the limitations, barriers, or challenges you're facing, because you are so valuable to your child, and your role is to what you said. Andy Stanley has a quote, every other leadership role is eventually replaced, but no one can replace you as a father in the life of
Mm.
your child. And so I was just inspired. I just wanted to share that back. So thank you very much for what you shared, Mike. Ed.
With a Major League Baseball player, father of 5 kids, and also grandkids, what have your kids taught you in your fatherhood journey? One or two things.
Wow. Um, well, first of all, I think you learn that you can love at a level you didn't know you were capable of. As you're heading into that whole thing, you think I'm just going to be a dad, and then you realize that, man, they just consume your being. And my wife and I have tried to be very intentional about spending time together, and we were adamant about having date nights. Once again, great advice that we were given from people a little further along the trail than we were. And we found ourselves constantly, and whenever we would go on date night, talking about our kids. It's just, and we still do now that they're all gone out of the house and families of their own. It's all consuming, which to me is just a kind of an indicator of the care and the love that we have for them, and the love that is returned to us as well. I just didn't know just how, going kind of back to Drew's point about encouraging dads to stay in there, because I just don't think we realize how close they're watching. And I don't think we give ourselves the responsibility, but also the credit of being able to influence and be multipliers. I mean, every one of these kids that we have the privilege of investing into, to loving, to raising, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, to leading, man, it's this chance to go and generationally make a difference. And I'm watching our kids that are able to now as adults come back and talk about some of the things, and not always did I handle it exactly how they would want it handled, but to be able to talk through it now, and for them to understand that okay, here's what was going on in life right then, and I didn't handle that as well as I should, and to be able to do that to them even when we were young. I thought that was one of the greatest gifts my parents gave me, was admitting that I messed this up, and the freedom to not have to try and be this perfect parent, which there is no such thing, just in case anybody didn't know that. But to be able to have that grace of being able to figure it out along the way. And I think my kids being raw and real with me, and allowing me to be raw and real with them. And listen, but when it came down to it, I wasn't trying to be their friend. I needed to be their father. And that wasn't always pleasant. And I think there were times my wife and I both wondered if they were going to run for the hills once they got out of the house, because we ran a pretty tight ship. And we tried to have a why, though. There's a why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it's truly meant not for us to feel like we're super parents, but we're trying to give you guys the best chance you have to go and live a successful life, to live an impactful life, to go and make the kind of life that makes a difference in our world, by us trying to raise you the way that we believe that you should be raised. And once again, there is nothing easy about any of that, and a lot of mistakes along the way. But just what I learned from our kids, Ed, is that it's okay when you don't get it quite right. Let's keep moving forward. And it goes back to Drew's question about the perseverance, and just continue to do. I love saying it this way. It's a discipline, and discipline is continuing to do the next right thing. We're making the very best effort. What is that next right thing? And when you break it down into bite-sized pieces, what's that next right thing? I can do that one. If I don't get it right, I'm going to do the next right thing. And it's just like on any large task, get it into manageable size first.